So let's go on to verse 2. Whenever I am with others, I will practice seeing myself as the lowest of all. And from the very depth of my heart, I will respectfully hold others as supreme. This is the kind of verse where we go, come on, you don't really mean that. Okay, whenever I am with others, I will practice seeing myself as the lowest of all. My goodness, if I do that, then they'll all take advantage of me. Then I won't get anywhere. They won't respect me. They'll walk all over me. I'll be the world's doormat if I see myself as the lowest of all. Anyway, I have so many self-esteem problems that I already see myself as the lowest of all, and so this will just, reinforce all that garbage. Yeah? So let's throw this verse out. Well, no. Okay? And then when it says, and from the very depth of my heart, I will respectfully hold others as supreme. Hold others as supreme? That idiot? Hold them as supreme? That jerk in my office? That person who criticized me? That person who cut me off on the highway? That person who stole my money? Hold them as supreme? Oh, no way. Okay, so you can see, already we have a lot of pride and vindictiveness, don't we? Yeah, just from our response to these verses, it's like, I don't want to see myself as the lowest of all. In fact, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty capable. They should see me as the highest of all and respect me. Don't we think that? Yeah? Because after all, I'm so wonderful, I'm so good. People are so privileged to have me in their life. My boss is so privileged to have me as an employee. He should make 3 prostrations to me and say, thank you for working in my company. Okay, that's what we think. Yeah, we have a little bit of ego problem. Okay, what this verse means is it doesn't mean that we always, that we have low self-esteem and we don't believe in ourselves or anything like that. It doesn't mean that. What it means is that we try and tame our arrogance. So instead of going into a situation being puffed up, thinking we're fantastic, go into a situation with some humility, some feeling of, oh, there's other sentient beings here. They have needs, they have wishes, they've been kind to me. How can I benefit them? Instead of going into a situation saying, I am the center of the universe, I'm going to get my way, I'm going to be respected, and, get the promotion and get all the, praise in this. Instead of that some kind of self-centered mind, to go in with respect for others, really seeing their good qualities and wanting to be a benefit. Okay. Can you feel the difference in your own mind if I say, go in puffed up, I'm the best, they should treat me well, I should have everything good, I should be the highest of all. What the feeling is in your mind versus, oh, I'm going to go in and be respectful, learn from others, give praise where praise is needed. Okay? There's a whole different mood or flavor in our mind, isn't there? And which one is more comfortable? Going into situations thinking, here I am, the world owes me something, or going into situations, thinking, how can I benefit the people? Okay? Yeah? Which way does your mind feel more comfortable? Yeah? Okay? And so from the very depth of our heart, to respectfully hold others as supreme. Remember that in this life, in previous lives, they've been kind to us. Remember that they just want to be happy and not suffer, and yet because of their ignorance, they create so many causes for suffering. Okay? And so going in with the intention of being of benefit. Okay? So this also means, when we think of ourselves as the highest of all, then we believe that we should be able to win every argument. We should always be right. Yeah. Do you have that streak in you that you're always right and you're going to win the argument? Yeah. What happens in your life when you do that? Yeah. Just think about it. Okay, verse 3. In all actions I will examine my mind, and the moment a disturbing attitude arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly confront and avert it. Okay, so disturbing attitude here means afflictions. The Sanskrit is klesa, or Pali kilesa. So all those attitudes or emotions that are not realistic, that plague our mind, that we believe in. Okay, so to be really quite attentive to what is going on inside of us, so that when an afflictive thought or a disturbing emotion arise in our mind, we're able to catch it. Because so often these things arise in our mind and we don't catch them, and then they just increase and create a mess. Okay? For example, something happened, at home somebody spilled something on the floor. You're a little bit irritated, okay? But you don't realize, oh, I'm irritated. I need to be careful because when I'm irritated, it can easily increase and become anger. So because you don't realize that, then instead of just, okay, somebody spilled something on the floor, let's clean it up, you start thinking, somebody spilled something on the floor. They always spill something on the floor, and I'm always the person who has to clean it up. This is not fair. Who do they think I am? Their servant? And as we start thinking like this, our anger gets stronger and stronger. And before we know it, we're shouting at somebody. Okay? Has that ever happened to you? Some small incident, and then pretty soon, you're furious. I always joke, well, this is half a joke, because unfortunately it's kind of happens like this. Sometimes within marriages, there's some small thing. At breakfast time, you eat noodles, okay? You usually eat noodles. So you sit down to breakfast, there's no noodles. There's bread. You want noodles. Honey, where are the noodles? And your spouse says, there aren't any, we have bread today. And you say, but we always have noodles, and I like noodles. Well, we don't have any, and then, your spouse says, well, we don't have any noodles in the house right now. And you say, why not? It was your turn to go shopping. You should have been aware that there weren't any noodles and bought some more noodles. And your spouse says, what? You know, why is it upon my head to notice when we're out of noodles? You know, you should make a shopping list. You were the one who used the last bit of the noodles. Yeah, you should put it on a shopping list. And you say, oh, you expect me to be your servant, do you? And your spouse says, well, you know, you don't do anything else around this house. You expect me to clean up after you. And then you say, what are you talking about? I work harder than you do. I contribute more to this family than you do. And your spouse says, what, who? You're just being outrageous. You're always like this. And then you say, well, you're always like that too. You never listen to me. You're always blaming me for what's your problem. And it goes on and on and on. And then finally one of you says, this is just the whole context of our marriage. You know, you're always taking advantage of me and blaming me and not contributing your part, and I want a divorce. And it's all because there weren't noodles for breakfast. You know, that's how it started out. Okay. Have you had quarrels like that in your family? No. It's quite interesting. The women are laughing and the men are like... Do you have quarrels like that in your family, guys? Huh? Come on, tell the truth. Well, okay. So this kind of thing happens because we're not being mindful of what's going on, and we're not having any introspective awareness. Yeah. So in other words, some little affliction started, and it went unnoticed, and then pretty soon we're at divorce court. Yeah, completely unreasonable. So what we need, there's two mental factors that are very, very important. The first one is called mindfulness. And here what mindfulness means is you hold your precepts in mind. You hold in mind what is virtuous and what is non-virtuous. You remember, you hold in mind what your ethical values are, how you want to be in the world. Okay? So when the conversation is starting and you find yourself getting irritated, you notice that and you say, oh, irritation, that leads to anger. Anger leads to harsh words. Harsh words create negative karma, which creates suffering. I don't want to get involved in that. Yeah, this is just a little bit of irritation over some noodles. I'm going to drop it. Yeah, it's not worth going anywhere with this. I'm not going to get angry. Okay? So you're remembering how you want to be, and you're holding your mind on that. Okay, that's mindfulness. The other one is introspective awareness, and this is the mental factor that checks. It's like a self-monitoring mind, and it checks and it says, what am I thinking right now? What's going on in my mind? Yeah, so this is the mind that at the very beginning is going to notice, oh, I'm irritated. Yeah. Or, oh, I'm starting to blame somebody. Yeah, so the introspective awareness notices what's going on, and then the mindfulness brings you back to how you want to be. Okay? So that's why it says, in all actions I will examine my mind, okay, with introspective awareness. And the moment a disturbing attitude arises, like anger, greed, jealousy, laziness, arrogance, complacency, spite, when something like that arises, endangering myself and others, because when those disturbing attitudes and afflicted mental states arise, I say and do things that directly harm others, and I create the negative actions that harm myself by ripening in me experiencing suffering in the future. Okay, so whenever we're doing something that harms others, we're also harming ourselves. Often we don't realize this. When we're mad, we just want to retaliate and harm somebody else, not realizing that we're equally the victim of our own anger. And in fact, our own anger or our own spite or grudge or resentment is actually going to hurt us more than it hurts the other person, because we're the one creating the negative karma. The other person's experiencing the ripening of their negative karma, finishing it. But we're creating more. Okay, so it's very important that we stop and think in our lives, First of all, that we're aware of what we're thinking and feeling. But also before we act, that we stop and think, what are the results of this action going to be? Because sometimes we just get carried away, The motivation is so strong that we don't think of the result of the action. We're so fired up, the adrenaline is going, we just want to do something. And then afterwards, we go, oh my goodness, I created a mess. Because lots of times, for example, when we get angry at, like we were talking, mostly at the people we care about the most, and then we say horrible, cruel, mean things to those people, and that harms our relationship with them. It takes a long time to build up trust, but it takes a short time to destroy it. So when we're angry and resentful, we want to retaliate, we say all sorts of things just to, vent our anger, not realizing that we're damaging the relationship that we care so much about. And then afterwards, we're left going, what happened? What did I do? Okay, how do I repair this? Or another kind of example, that example was with anger and animosity. Another example with attachment and desire. You're married or you're in a relationship with somebody, and then there's somebody else who kind of flirts with you, and you go, oh wow, that looks kind of nice, My spouse won't find out about it. I can go out and enjoy myself with this other person, have an extramarital affair. They'll never find out about it. The kids will never find out about it. I'll have a good time. And you don't stop and think, what are the results going to be of having an extramarital affair? Because you think, oh, other people get caught, not me. But I can't tell you the number of people who come and talk to me because they know that it's usually the husband, sometimes the wife, is having an extramarital affair. Or kids who know that mom or dad were having an extramarital affair when they grew up. And you're thinking, oh, the kids don't know. the kids know, and they lose respect for you. You try and teach your kid good ethical values, and they're thinking, well, look what you're doing. Yeah? You made a promise when you got married. You're not living according to your promise. So it must be okay if I don't live according to my promises too. It's setting an example for your kids, you know. You're telling your kids one thing and you're doing another thing. Yeah, so that creates a lot of confusion in families. I do a lot of work with inmates, with people who are incarcerated, you know, and one of the biggest things with them is before they did the action that got them in jail, they didn't think about what they were doing, about the result of it. Yeah? They just wanted something, so they went out and stole it. Or they were just mad at somebody, so they went out and beat them or shot them. You know, not thinking, what are the results going to be? Yeah? So it's really important that we stop and think and consider the results of our actions. You know? And if the result isn't going to be something we want, then let's not do the action. So this is what I meant in the discussion when I said sometimes we may have to give up some worldly happiness to have the Dharma happiness. Yeah? So you may have to say no to that extramarital affair in order to keep your precepts and keep your marriage vows and keep your family intact. But in the long term, it's going to be worth it. Yeah. And for people who, you know, go with somebody who's already married, bad decision. Yeah? Because if that person is cheating on their spouse, just wait a while, they'll cheat on you too. Yeah? You always think if you're the other man or the other woman, well, they really love me more than their spouse. They'll do anything for me. Well, that's what they told their spouse too when they got married. Yeah? So you have to think about these kinds of things. Yeah? And practice restraint, because it'll save you from a whole lot of problems later on. I was just reading an article in the newspaper about a young kid in the U.S. He was 16 years old. He and a few friends went to Walmart or somewhere. They stole some beer. They went home. They drank the beer. Then they got in his father's truck and started driving somewhere. He was drunk. He got in a car wreck. He killed 4 people, and one of his friends has severe brain damage and is barely responsive. So for a little bit of fun, getting drunk and having a party with one's friends, now, you know, this kid who's 16 has to live with this the rest of his life, knowing that he killed 4 people. And that he, you know, made one of his friends basically paralyzed and a vegetable. Yeah, not thinking. So 16 years old, you can understand, you know, not very mature, the brain's not developed. But then adults do this, not just teenagers. Yeah, adults do so many stupid things sometimes. Yeah, and then we wonder why we have problems. Okay, so in this verse is saying, you know, I will firmly confront and avert it. In other words, when I notice that a disturbing attitude, you know, has arisen in my mind, instead of just letting it be there and run the show, I'm going to stop, and knowing that attitude is dangerous and will make me engage in things that I'll regret later, I'm going to apply the antidote to that wrong attitude. Okay? So in the case of attachment, when attachment's running our mind, we need to stop and meditate on impermanence, that things are changing all the time. If things are changing all the time, what is there to cling on to with attachment? Okay. Another thing that I find very helpful when I have a lot of attachment in my mind is to imagine that I get whatever it is that I'm attached to, and then I ask myself, well, now are you eternally happy? No. Yeah? So if getting this thing is not going to make me forever happy, why am I so attached to it? Running after it like an idiot. Yeah? Practice restraint. I don't really need this. If our problem is with anger, and we notice that disturbing attitude arising in our mind, then we meditate on love, on compassion, and on fortitude. Yeah? And in that way, we calm our mind. But all these meditations we need to do before there's an active situation. Okay? In other words, we need to become very familiar with these antidotes when our mind is calm. So that's why in our daily meditation practice, we need to practice thinking in this way. Yeah? Thinking of times when we've had a lot of desire, and then, kind of, okay, what is that going to bring? Nothing good. It's not going to bring me eternal happiness. I have to, refrain and restrain, Or that thing is impermanent. There's no sense chasing after it. It's not going to last. And so you practice it in your daily meditation. Yeah, you gain some familiarity with these techniques. It's kind of like, taking a test. You have to study for the test. If you go in cold, probably won't score very well. Similarly, in our life, we have to practice these antidotes to the afflictions in our daily meditation before there's an acute, dangerous situation. Because if we don't, and we think right in the middle of that situation, when our anger's really strong or our greed's really strong, that then we can practice the antidote and subdue our mind, we're just fooling ourselves. Yeah, because once the afflictions get too strong, very difficult to control. Okay, so we need to practice beforehand. If jealousy is our problem, we need to practice rejoicing at the other person's good opportunities, good qualities, at their virtue. If we're feeling discouraged, then we need to remember our Buddha nature, and we need to contemplate the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha that will uplift our mind. Okay, so in all these different afflictions, there's an antidote. When we have a lot of doubt, we need to ask questions. Or we need just to do the breathing meditation to settle our mind down because the doubts are just spinning out of control. So do some breathing meditation, settle the mind. Okay? When our mind is really obscured and ignorance is strong, we need to meditate on dependent arising. Contemplate how things are dependent on causes and conditions, dependent on parts, dependent upon being labeled and conceived. Okay? So we kind of have our work cut out for us, don't we? Mm-hmm. whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, I will hold such a rare one dear as if I had found a precious treasure. Okay, so think of a person who has a bad nature, somebody you know who has a bad nature, who has a lot of negative energy, yeah, who has a lot of intense suffering, yeah, could be somebody who's sick, who's complaining all the time. Okay. Can you think of somebody who's sick, who's complaining all the time? Or somebody who has small problems, but they suffer intensely because they blow their problems way up out of proportion? So that every time you talk to that person, they take a half an hour to tell you again what their problem is that they had already told you the last time you talked to them. Do you know people like that? Yeah. Maybe you live with people like that. You have a relative always complaining. Okay, a lot of negative energy. They don't get along with anybody. They're blaming everybody. They have intense suffering. They can't cope with it, so they just keep complaining and blaming. And you know, you don't want to be around them because they're so disagreeable. You know people like that? Yeah. Okay. I know none of us are like that. Yeah. We're always nice, pleasant, kind. We don't complain, do we? We don't blame other people for problems, do we? Yeah. We don't tell them the same problem again and again and again, even though they've heard it 15 times. Yeah. We don't do things like that. Okay. So whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, yeah, usually when we're around such a person, what do you want to do? What do you want to do when you're with somebody who has intense suffering, complaining, lots of negative energy, always looking at the bad side of things? What do you want to do when you're around that person?
Run away.
Get away from them. Yeah, it's like, how can I get out of here as soon as possible? I can't stand this person. Okay, so but what does the thought training teaching tells us? I will hold such a rare one dear as if I had found a precious treasure. Our mind goes, oh, come on. This person is not a precious treasure. This person is a pain in the neck. I want to get out of here. Let them sit and complain to themselves. I don't want any part of this. They are not a rare one. I know too many people like this. And they're not dear, they're obnoxious. And they are not a precious treasure. Ugh. So the thought training teachings usually tell us to do the exact opposite of what we feel like doing. Yeah, it's usually the exact opposite. What we don't want to do, that's what they tell us to do. So, how are we supposed to see this obnoxious person who always complains as a rare one who we hold dear like a precious treasure? And why should we hold them dear? Yeah, why in the world should we hold such a person dear? All they do is disturb my happiness.
They
Yeah?
give us a chance to practice our
Yeah. They give us a chance to practice patience and fortitude. They give us a chance to develop loving kindness and compassion. Yeah. Because in fact, we need these obnoxious people in order to practice the path to awakening. We need them because fortitude or patience, which is one of the paramitas, yeah, to practice that, you need somebody who's obnoxious. You need somebody who's pushing your buttons to practice patience, kindness, fortitude. Yeah. We can't practice fortitude and patience with people who are nice and agreeable. We can only do it with people who are disagreeable. So we need the disagreeable people if we really want to practice the Dharma. There's a story about Lama Atisha. Actually, Lama Atisha has a connection with Indonesia. Yeah. He was an Indian sage, and he wanted to receive the teachings on bodhicitta, and he heard about a very famous teacher who was called Serlingpa, the person of the Golden Isles, which was in Indonesia, Sumatra. Yeah. So he went on a boat in search of Serlingpa, found this teacher, studied the bodhicitta with him, and then later he went to Tibet and he taught Buddhism widely in Tibet, really reinvigorating it. Yeah. Okay, so Lama Atisha had strong connection with Indonesia. When Atisha went to Tibet, apparently he had a cook that was very disagreeable. Yeah, the person who cooked for him. He brought this cook from India. The cook always saying, I want this, don't give me that, give me this. How come this, blah, 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 blah. Always big mouth, lots of complaints. Okay? So the Tibetan said, Lama Atisha, why did you bring this guy with you? We can cook for you. We know how to cook. Get rid of this guy. Send him back to India. He's driving us crazy. Lama Atisha said, no, I need him in order to practice patience. I'm keeping him here. And I wonder if Lama Atisha may have thought too, but sometimes the Tibetans are pretty obnoxious and they're helping me as well practice patience. Okay? But the point is we really need those people to strengthen our practice. Huh? So when we meet people of bad nature, who are disagreeable, who have intense suffering, we don't find such people every day, do we? Do you meet a person like that every day? Not usually. Somebody's smiling. She's thinking, my mother, my father. I see them every day. Okay. Maybe a few times you do that. Okay? But it's hard to find those people. And if we're really practicing the Bodhisattva vehicle, we want to find disagreeable people and enemies because we want to progress along the path. And we know we need these people to practice patience and fortitude. So for a bodhisattva, when they meet this obnoxious person, They go, yippee! Yeah, hooray! Now I get to practice. So that shows you what a bodhisattva's mind is like, and how we have to change how we think in order to become like a bodhisattva and say yippee. Okay. They also say that bodhisattvas, when they meet a beggar, or even somebody who's not a beggar, who says, give me, that a bodhisattva is just ecstatic. Somebody wants something from me. Now I can practice generosity. Yeah. When we hear somebody say, give me, we go, oh God, leave me alone. What do they want now? Yeah. A bodhisattva says, wow, I can practice generosity. What good fortune I have. Okay? So the difference between the way we think and the way a bodhisattva thinks is whether our mind is focused on worldly happiness or dharma happiness. When our mind is focused on worldly happiness, somebody who wants something from us is a pain in the neck. Somebody who is disagreeable is similarly a pain in the neck. From the viewpoint of a bodhisattva, somebody who wants something, because a bodhisattva wants to create merit, wants to practice the paramitas, when they meet somebody who wants something or somebody who's disagreeable, they're really happy. And they really see these people as rare and precious because they don't come about every day. Okay, so we have to train our mind. We have to shift our mind to see these situations in a different way, so that we too can become happy when faced with such situations. Yeah? So that's an example of transforming adversity into the path. Because as long as we're in samsara, we're going to meet people of bad nature, with negative energy and intense suffering. We're going to meet people who want something from us. It's always going to happen. So let's transform our minds so we can greet these situations in a positive way, instead of always, in a self-centered way that makes us down and depressed. Okay? So, we have a little bit of time for questions, comments.
Dear Venerable, I have a question. This is about the Bodhisattva mind. Venerable said that we need to have a different mind when we do the generosity. My experience when it's in Jakarta, I saw many beggars along the way to the office. And at the first time I tried to practice generosity, give without thinking what they will do, and I just want to give. But then the fact is, a few years ago in the newspaper there was a fact that beggar have a lot of money and I think everyone in Jakarta is surprised about it. And now we are thinking, do we need to give them? Because if we just give and then we don't have like a wisdom or try to guide them to have a work properly, I think it's also not a good thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I know when they write articles like this, then we start thinking, every beggar must be a millionaire. Do you think that's true? Do you think every beggar really has a lot of money? Yeah? I mean, if you really had a lot of money, would you sit on the street to earn your living? Yeah? I don't know. I mean, there might be a couple of beggars who maybe get some adequate income, but if you think about it, you know, if you have your choice of occupation, would you choose to be a beggar to make money? Yeah, because, you know, beggars are also, people treat them very disrespectfully, yeah, and very meanly. So I'm not so sure, yeah, about that. In any case, what I think is good to do is to give food. Yeah. If you don't think giving money is a good idea because you think they may have enough money or they may use the money to go out and get drunk or something, then instead of giving them money, give them food. Because everybody can use food. And even if the beggar has enough, you know, we give food to our friends who have enough. You never lose out by giving food. Okay? And also with beggars, sometimes what makes more of a difference than what you give them is how you give. In other words, if you look them in the eye and you say, "Here, please take this," versus you walk by very quickly and you just kind of toss it at them. Yeah, if we take the time and maybe connect with them as a living being, that can many times be more significant to a person who's begging than the actual food or material thing that we give them. Yeah, that the kind of person who is disagreeable and bad energy, lots of times because so many people don't want to be around them, then people push them away and they become more unhappy. So if we pay some attention to them in a helpful way, it could actually ease some of their suffering. Okay? One way to do this is if a person is complaining a lot, to rephrase what they're saying in such a way that they can understand that you understand what they're saying and you empathize with what they're saying. Okay, let me give you an example. I had something like this happen a week or two ago. What was it? I think it was after a Dharma talk. Somebody came, you know, to ask me a question, and I could tell by the question what this person was doing is they were telling me a problem that they had told many people before. You know how you can tell sometimes when somebody has told many people something before, there's a certain way of saying it. So I knew that they had told many people this before, and I also knew that this problem was not something that I could solve for the other person. But I did try and give them one suggestion about maybe how they could change their attitude. And they said, "Yes, but." And this is the famous thing, you know, when you try and help people sometimes, and their reply is, "Yes, but," and then they repeat their problem again. And you try another thing, and they say, "Yes, but," and say it again. So I've learned after the first "yes, but," that not to give any advice, okay? But instead, I'll say to that person, "Oh, it sounds like you're really distressed about this problem. It's something that is really pulling at you and making you very unhappy. and you would like some resolution to the problem. And the person goes, yeah. And then I say, yeah, it seems like this is, difficult for you to bear, and you need some other people to cooperate and help you with it. The person goes, yes. And then you say, you feel, a little bit discouraged, and you want someone to be responsible together with you, and really pitch in and assume some responsibility. And they again go, yes, and then I know at that time that I've actually helped them, because they're not open to any advice, but what I've let them know by what I said is I've repeated back to them what I think they're feeling and what I think that they would really like. And then they feel understood. And sometimes when people are of bad nature and complain a lot, what they really want is for somebody to understand them. They're not really wanting somebody to give advice and fix their problem. They're wanting somebody just to understand. So sometimes that's the best thing we can give to somebody, is that little bit of understanding. We're not validating what they're complaining about. We're not taking sides and saying, oh yes, you have every right to complain. That other guy really hurt you. We're not taking sides and, getting them worked up even more. We're just telling them how we think they feel, reflecting that back to them, and reflecting what we think their emotional need is at that time. And that can be very, very soothing for some people. Because lots of times when a person's saying the same thing over and over and over again, it's because they don't feel that somebody's heard them. Yeah? We can see this in ourselves. When we say the same thing again and again, it's because we don't feel like the person we're talking to has really understood what we're trying to say.
Narrator tadi menceritakan tentang masalah perselingkuhan.
Can I just talk about the extramarital affair?
Kebetulan ini ada teman, dia mencintai seorang laki-laki yang sudah berkeluarga.
There is a friend who loves a married man.
Teman saya belum menikah, single.
My friend is still single.
What?
Her friend is still
single
and available.
Uh-huh.
But she loves
A married man.
Single and available.
Right.
Bagaimana kita juga sudah sering memberi nasihat,
We talk to her, we give advice.
Tetapi sepertinya terus berlanjut.
But it seems that she continues to love him.
Sekarang bagaimana kita sebagai teman itu untuk membantu dia?
As a friend, how can we help her?
Okay, so they continue to offer advice to her friend, and the friend doesn't respond, and still wants to stay with that guy.
Enggak, maksudnya gini, kalau di Inggris mencintai sama lakinya direspon nggak? So jadi mereka berdua. Actually, the guy also respond. The married man.
Yeah.
Also, I think falls to the woman.
He does what?
Yeah, her friend falls in love with a married
man, and he's in love with her.
Yeah, too. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Write a soap opera. What you might ask your friend is, how do you see this situation playing out? What do you think will happen? Do you think in the end it'll have a good ending, or do you think later on that you might get hurt? I tried that and she didn't like it.
Dia tahu akibatnya itu nanti seperti apa.
She knows what it will be one day.
Yeah.
So she knows the consequences and the result.
Yeah. Then just let her do.
Biarin aja, ya.
Yeah. I mean, if she wants to, and if she says, I'm aware of the results, I'm willing to bear them, then what can you do? Yeah, you want to send a rocket to the moon to get her to pay attention? Yeah. What can you do? Sometimes it's really hard to accept that people we care about do really dumb things that are self-sabotaging. Yeah, because we can see so clearly that what they're doing is a dead end, and they don't want to listen. So what can you do? Make sure you don't become somebody like that. That's what you can do.
Can I give comments?
Uh-huh.
I just remember what Venerable wrote in Open Heart, Clear Mind. Actually, that is not love.
Mm-hmm.
That's attachment.
Yeah, very
That's
clearly,
attachment.
attachment.
The things that we can do as a friend and a good friend, if we have done a lot to give advice, and the person just doesn't want to listen, we are just ready to be for her when the person falls.
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing that we can do.
Yep.
I have to translate.
Yeah.
Itu
You want me to
bukan
translate?
cinta, itu kemelekatan. Di buku Venerable yang judulnya Open Heart Clear Mind diterbitkan oleh Yayasan Pendidik Karania, tertulis itu beda cinta sama kemelekatan. Yang tadi dimaksud itu bukan cinta, tapi kemelekatan. Dan sebagai teman baik, hal terbaik yang bisa kita lakukan menurut saya adalah, karena kita tahu akhirnya akan buruk, kalau diteruskan, kita adalah menjadi orang yang akan mendampinginya ketika hal keburukan itu terjadi. Call me. You're single and unavailable. Because everyone is just so quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, I'm sure you feel very frustrated because you want to help your friend and she doesn't sound very open about the whole thing.
Whenever I want to ask about the bodhicitta, because whenever after the red hat, we have a strong motivation to do good things, but then after the time flies by, and then we just get starting like think about our egocentrism again, about me and myself, and then the world things.
Yeah.
I just want to ask some tips for us if what should we do if the bodhicitta, our bodhicitta is start to fade away, and then we just feel.
Okay. This is, yeah, but this is everybody's experience, you know. We get really energized, and then after a while we lose it. So what we have to do is every day do this meditation. Every day do this, you know, think over the kindness of others and the value of bodhicitta and generate that aspiration. It's like anything, you know. We have to, you know, do it over and over and over again to familiarize ourselves with it. Yeah. It's like anything, you know, you do it once, you're not going to remember how to do it if you don't keep practicing. So similarly, we have to keep practicing bodhicitta.